Welcome everybody to the Lunacy Podcast, brought to you by Roughneck Scarves. My name is Tony. I'm here with Dave and David. Dave Stevens, David Sterling. I'm Tony Pervenanzi. Today we are at Under Pressure Brewing Company in beautiful New Hope, Minnesota. And boys, this
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley.
Oh, Golden Valley. Sorry, not
close.
New Hope. Not
Close.
Sorry, we're close. New Hope, Golden Valley. I apologize, Golden Valley people. But this brewery is totally different than any brewery we've been to before.
Oh yeah, without
I mean, this
a doubt.
place it's got medieval stuff in it. It's got books. It's got the chairs are all like old school chairs. It's amazing.
If you didn't look over there, you wouldn't think we were in a brewery. Actually, just looking at the bookshelves and the kind of the
This is the
old school antique almost furniture.
I think
and chandeliers even.
I think we're in the library section.
We must be. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they've got like this fireplace with two chairs flanking it, and it's just there's skulls everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it's not your first time, Tony, right? But
No.
this is my first time, so I'm excited we decided to do the podcast here today.
And they were gracious enough to let us come out on this cold Sunday. I know they've got, so it's interesting, I was telling David this before the podcast, is the people who own this place, they started off as of course most brewers do, doing it out of the garage and doing their own thing, but they were entering a bunch of contests. And they kept winning these contests. And finally somebody said, well, why don't you just start a brewery and start making money off your contest wins? And that's what they did. And these beers are phenomenal. I mean, they are fantastic beers. I've got the Blueberry Cream Ale. It is great for a cream ale. A little hint of blueberry in there. David, did you get a porter?
Oh, I got the London Brown.
London Brown. Ooh.
And my goodness, first off, there's no IBUs to this at all. It says 20 and it tastes like it. I mean, it's just like the smoothest ale I think I've drank in a long time.
Wow.
And it's really dark for a brown ale.
Yeah.
But it's it's really good.
And Dave got a flight.
I did get a flight. And
Now, what do the flights come on, Dave?
it comes on a heavy-duty, looks like stainless steel sword, actually.
Yes,
You
it does.
could literally go to war with somebody in here with one of
You
these
could.
things.
You could hurt somebody with it.
It's very impressive. We were just talking earlier. Yeah, I don't know. It might be 1A versus 1-2 as far as flights go between this and Udapils.
Yeah, and their flight skis.
Yes.
Yes.
That was kind of unique. This is very unique. It's actually it's a load. You got to use both hands to carry it over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great. But yeah, interesting. I started with the apple ale, which is not on their normal menu as one of their adders. That's actually one of the things I should say. They have 15 to 18 beers.
Yeah,
I think
they
they
got
have 15 normal plus another few maybe seasonal rotators.
Seasonals,
but,
yep.
So that's what this apple ale is, and I'm glad that you brought up IBUs. I don't think we bring that up very much when we're talking about beer.
I don't think so either.
And people who don't maybe get into beer as much as we do, that is a good number to know because it's I think it's International Bitterness Unit.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it's something along those lines. But yeah, it's supposed to directly kind of measure the bitterness of a beer. And the apple, you talked about yours being low. The apple ale actually is one of the lowest I've ever had at 12.
Holy jeez.
And so it's not, but it's not a cider. It's not an apple cider.
No.
It's definitely an ale. It tastes like a beer. It's really good. It's Applicious, actually.
Applicious.
Now,
Okay.
I didn't come up with that. That's on their sign, so of course I had to say that. But no, it's slightly sour, refreshing. It's I love it. I'd get a pint of this.
Yeah. Again, these guys make some great beers. Nels and I were in here months ago. I was scoping this place out, and every beer that Nels and I tried was fantastic. And Nels is a big, heavier beer drinker as well. He likes stouts and
I thought
stuff.
you were just going to say heavy drinker.
Right, he can be. If he listens to this, he knows what I'm talking about. So, on to the fun stuff of the day. We had a little game last weekend.
We did.
You did.
It was the first round playoff game against the Galaxy at Allianz Field. David and I went with Johnny. Johnny was with us in your seats for the final time.
Yep.
Up in the upper area.
Yep.
You will be there next year.
Oh, that's right. The final time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Dave was in Vegas at a sports book
Vegas,
watching the
yeah.
game. So I'd like to give you David and I will give you our experience of the game firsthand, the atmosphere, everything, and then Dave will give you his experience of watching it at a sports book.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I think your experience is going to be a little bit better as far as watching a soccer game.
It could
Might
be.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went down there early because United said we're going to have a major party out on the grassy knoll in front of the stadium, right? And they've been talking about that all year, but they've never really like put it together. It's always been like shrunk down to like just the road outside, and it's just kind of.
And you say like they had a band, but they've had bands before.
But they've always put the band like up near the
up
stadium.
Close to the stadium.
It's not
This
a
was
big
all the way
area.
across.
This was the whole grassy area was all enclosed. They had a bigger stage on the one end.
Yeah.
They had where we were standing was kind of their like beer tent area with tables, stand-up tables. Of course, they had a couple food trucks. They had their merchandise mart outside. And it was more of what it should have been all year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see several thousand people milling around.
Mm-hmm.
They're standing in line for the free shit giveaways.
Yeah,
and,
the line for that never got short.
Yeah, exactly. And it was cool. There were some LA Galaxy fans wandering around, and it was just it's what you expect it to be.
Yeah, and the only bad thing about it was, of course, United decided we're going to have these beer tents, but we're going to charge you indoor stadium prices.
Yeah, I was a little bit
which kind of pisses me
perturbed.
off because it's like, dude, it's outside before the game. Charge us less,
Right.
and give us like a discount, and we'll probably still buy some inside. But why charge the same prices in both spots?
And-
Did you visit our friends at Dual Citizen Brewing Company before?
We did that too, yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple drinks over there too, we wanted to get down to this.
Yeah.
And my concern going down there was it's going to be the same as it's always been. We're going to get down there super early. It's going to suck. We're going to be down there and be like, this is so stupid,
Right.
But it actually turned out well, I think, We got into the game. It was fantastic. The atmosphere was great. They gave us the towel, the rally towel.
Rally towel and the
light up
armband.
thing. Now, that was cool.
It was.
I don't know how did you think they did that though?
Well,
I have no idea because it somehow connected to the light system at the stadium.
It's like our like RFID or some kind of transmission.
Right.
Because I've been to a what was it, Coldplay concert at US Bank Stadium.
Okay.
And they had the same deal. You wore a wristband and it lit up.
Okay.
All different colors throughout the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Kept going.
And I still have mine
So do I.
because I figured out how to turn it off and reset it. Mm-hmm. So then it actually you can go through the colors.
Yeah.
And if you stop on some, they rotate colors.
Sure.
And then my daughter abruptly decided to sneak it to school, daycare.
Oh.
And, of course, Mom figured that out. So now I actually don't know where it is because it was taken and hidden somewhere. But, that whole pregame thing was very cool. Mm-hmm. The halftime event was very cool.
Yeah.
I wish they had videos of it. I haven't seen one anywhere.
There was a shortened video. I think it was the pregame one where they did the kind of the Charlie and Chocolate Factory, that song thing. And dude, when that song came on, I started showing video of the stadium, and I had goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
It was like this is so awesome.
Exactly, and that's why I wish they'd put the whole thing out.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think everybody that didn't get to go would love to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it literally went through the whole history. I mean, from ground break to the final, opening, and it had Charlie Chocolate Factory, World of Imagination.
World of
is that what
Imagination,
it's
yeah.
called?
With Gene Wilder saying it.
Yeah.
Which was like, I mean, the original, like, him saying it from, it was like, oh, man.
Exactly. I mean, I just thought it was very cool, and hopefully they put it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, because the game didn't start until 7:30 Minnesota time, or even later than that. So it was dark.
Yeah.
I imagine was at the certainly latest into the season. Such a late game, so it was basically dark. It was dark at the time the game started, so that just made all the lights and everything else like that even better.
It was amazing to see it all.
I've seen a couple pictures. Sorry to interrupt, but I've seen a couple pictures on social media of kind of like the stadium, and the background.
And I saw a couple people on social media, LA Galaxy fans that were there, say how much they appreciated the whole atmosphere as well. I thought it was very cool. So, I mean, that overall was great aspect of the night.
Worth the price of admission, I think, for that.
Well, then maybe it's too dark to notice. But then, question I was having, when I was watching the game on TV, obviously, but what was the condition of the turf? I know you could see the lines.
You could see the lines still.
You guys would probably complain about that. They were still very visible, but
there were some divots.
Okay.
You could tell that it was torn up in areas, but they did a very phenomenal job.
Okay, good.
You could tell where the sidelines were for the football game the previous day. You could see the sidelines because everybody's walking back and forth. You could see how it was trampled down a little bit. But other than that, I mean, there's some divots and things. But.
Yeah, and there were a couple big divots in the first half, I think it was.
There were.
That they had to come out and repair at halftime. But overall, the field looked like it held up really well.
It did. Now, Dave, how was the atmosphere at the sports book you were at?
Well, so by that time, I was at the Westgate sports book,
the big one.
Superbook and casino.
One.
Actually, and it was my first time there. Without going into too much detail, it's technically the largest area, like if you're talking about surface area, I suppose.
Sure.
But the largest sports book in Vegas, maybe obviously one of the largest in the world. So it was quite a unique experience. I'm not going to go into the whole day, but obviously the game started at 5:30 local time in Vegas, and so the only thing it had to really compete with, I thought, was the Sunday night football game, which was Dallas and Philly. But so I thought, okay, an MLS playoff game, they'll have it on for sure, and they did. But soccer still took a second, third tier to behind not only, of course, the football game, but there was a couple hockey games on, apparently.
Yeah.
So took kind of third fiddle to that actually. So, but it was on a screen, decent size. All the screens out there are big, so that was kind of cool. Unfortunately, there was no, and I guess I kind of thought this might be the case, there was no audio. And I might have tried to track down a soccer bar. There'd be plenty in Vegas. It wouldn't have been a problem. But, I mean, I was out there with a group of people. I didn't want to leave them, of course, and the fact that I knew they were at least going to have it on. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about, like, kind of the atmosphere from a noise standpoint, because I was watching it with no sound. But I did make a bet for you and myself, Tony. Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
We did lose on that one.
But, it was even money, by the way. It finished at even money for the Loons.
Kind of figured. The atmosphere at the stadium, and David can attest to this, I mean, it was loud. It was crazy. I don't think I've heard it that loud since maybe opening day? Or maybe
do
you think the semifinal against Portland in the Cup?
I was going to say that might have...
But it wasn't as full,
No.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be challenging it, which is like Dave just said, it wasn't as full. And it was still very loud. So
I mean, tickets were going for one in the secondary market.
Oh my
Your
God,
seats were going for like $110.
Yeah, and there were still people trying to sell supporter section tickets for $100,
which is that's just stupid.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. The first playoff game at Allianz Field, it really doesn't, in the inaugural season there, that doesn't surprise me at all. But I did think the secondary price that you talk about, that doesn't shock me. Yes, it's expensive, but what I thought, I was relatively pleased with their pricing. Because like your tickets were what, only another 10 or 20 more?
It was like
was it
12% more or something like that.
So like $5.
I think you look across all major sports. I think that's very reasonable, at least on par. It's certainly not more than any other sport.
And they don't make you buy a whole row of playoff tickets,
right?
Which is nice, because most major sports make you buy the whole flipping set through the World Series or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, the Loons could have had at most, in the best case scenario, hosted 3 games. I mean, including the first round, if they had to go to LAFC. But then depending on how things fell, they could have came back for the semifinal and final. But
so it was great. The only other problem I had was, of course, they had the playoff scarf, which they were selling for $38.
Yeah, I mean,
and I said, no, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll keep my free one, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get into the game a little bit, guys. The first half was just kind of a...
Oh.
What's up?
Before you even get into the first half, let's talk about the lineup. So I think...
Oh, yes. Let's talk about the lineup
which was
that Adrian Heath put out there.
A surprise to all of us. Maybe it shouldn't, because in the other biggest game of the year, that could be... You could argue that, but like Atlanta...
Yeah, he tinkered.
There was no Darwin